Welcome to Dark Knight Films Reviews and another Versus Night. Tonight, I will be comparing Hour of the Gun, released in 1967, versus Wyatt Earp, released in 1994. So, let's start this off with the leads. Hour of the Gun stars James Garner and Jason Robards. Wyatt Earp stars Kevin Costner and Dennis Quaid. Now, when I first saw Hour of the Gun, I didn't know what to think of James Garner being cast in the role of Wyatt Earp. I had only known him primarily, I'd seen him in other stuff, but I had known him primarily as Maverick and as James Rockford in the Rockford Files. So, I wasn't sure how he was going to be able to pull off playing Wyatt Earp. But to my surprise, upon seeing the film, Garner gives a great portrayal of Wyatt Earp in here. In fact, to me, I think he's probably my second favorite actor to ever play the role of Wyatt Earp, next to Kurt Russell. So he did really well in this role. I think he was a really good Wyatt. He played him really good. Playing opposite him in this film was Jason Robards playing Doc Holliday. And I don't know why the producers, director or whatever, decided to make up Jason Robards to look older than he really was for this film. He was 45 when this film was made. Yes, Doc Holliday was younger than that. Doc Holliday was 36 years old when he died. But I think Jason Robards could have played a really good version of this character had he been not made up to look old. They give him gray hair in this. They make him look really old. And then they make him out to be like a ex-Civil War veteran or something in here. And that's completely inaccurate with what Doc was. Doc was too young to have served in the Civil War in any capacity. So that aspect of the film was a little disappointing, but his portrayal of the character is pretty good. That's why it's disappointing that they made him up to look so old and everything. Because like I said, yes, he was a little too old to be playing the character, but not too much. It wasn't like he was in his 60s when he played this role. He was 45, like I said, and like I said, Doc Holliday was 36 when he died. So he was a tad too old to be playing it, but not as old as they made him out to look like in this film. But I really like some of the aspects of the character that Robards puts in here, in the character, other than the stupid, veteran of the Civil War aspects that they wrote in there. On the other side of the spectrum, in Wyatt Earp, Kevin Costner is completely lackluster as the character of Wyatt Earp. He's not putting any real emotion or intensity into his portrayal, completely unlike what Kurt Russell did in Tombstone and what James Garner did in Hour of the Gun. He's just so bland as the character, and I just don't understand why he would do that, especially when this was his project that he wanted to do in an epic way. Just because, he was offered Tombstone, Kevin Costner was. But he turned it down because Kevin Jarre was wanting to focus on just the gunfight at OK Corral and the aftermath and all that in the story, and Costner wanted an actual character study of Wyatt. So if he was wanting that, I don't understand why he would give such a lackluster, boring performance in here. Dennis Quaid plays Doc Holliday, and other than, because Dennis Quaid's not a small guy, other than him being just far too big, even though he did kind of try to lose some weight for the role to try and look more slimmed down, he's just got that bigger built size that even when you lose some weight, you're not going to look right in the role. So I don't think he was. I think he's a better performer in this film than what Kevin Costner is. But I don't think he was a good choice to play the character of Doc Holliday in this film. They could have went with someone a lot more thinner built and a smaller actor to portray this role, and it probably would have worked out a lot better. So I am going to give the leads to James Garner and Jason Robards in Hour of the Gun. All right, now let's move on to supporting. Supporting cast in Hour of the Gun consists of Robert Ryan, Albert Salmi, William Wyndham, Lenny Chapman, Monty Markham, and Jon Voight. Supporting cast on Wyatt Earp includes Gene Hackman, Lyndon Ashby, Michael Madsen, Mark Harmon, Bill Pullman, and Tom Sizemore. Now, the supporting cast in Hour of the Gun, they never really stood out to me as really that good. They're serviceable in their roles. Robert Ryan is a little bit too tough and gruff, and too much of a badass to be playing Ike Clanton. And so I really like Robert Ryan, but yeah, I don't think he was the right choice to play Ike Clanton in here. Jon Voight, ironically, plays Curly Bill Brocious, and this was really young Jon Voight, so it was really weird that they took a character like Curly Bill Brocious, who was pretty big in the gunfight at OK Corral back, everything that was going on. He wasn't there at the gunfight, of course, but he was involved in all the crap going on with the cowboys and everything. So I think Jon Voight, a young actor like this, to be set up to play Curly Bill was a little bit off. On the other side of the spectrum with Wyatt Earp, you have the amazing Gene Hackman playing Wyatt Earp's dad in here, and he is just outstanding in the 30 minutes or so that he is on screen during those times when you're seeing the young Wyatt Earp growing up in Arkansas. It is a great. That's the part of Wyatt Earp that I really loved. Was the scenes with Gene Hackman. Some of the other casting in Wyatt Earp is some of them are sorely miscast. You have Lyndon Ashby as Morgan Earp, and I don't think he was a very good choice to play that character. And then you have, even worse than that, you have Michael Madsen playing Virgil Earp. And I love Michael Madsen, but that role was not good for him. It did not fit him at all. And then you have Mark Harmon playing completely against type as Johnny Behan, the cowardly town sheriff and everything that's just working with the cowboys and everything. And Mark Harmon does not fit that role at all. And then you have these short little cameos, almost, as what I'd call them, by Bill Pullman and Tom Sizemore, playing Ed and Bat Masterson. And I love both those actors, but they are sorely misused in this. I mean, they might have been really great playing the Masterson characters, but there's nothing for them to do in this film, basically. They're basically just introduced in there for these early years of showing Wyatt, meeting them as characters and everything. And nothing else is really done with them in the film that's of interest. However, just on the marks of Gene Hackman and that amazing performance he gives in those first 30 or so minutes of this film, this one I am going to give to the supporting cast of Wyatt Earp, mostly because of Gene Hackman. Now let's move on to story. Edward Anhalt based the story of Hour of the Gun on Tombstone's Epitaph, written by Douglas D. Martin. And this is a very accurately written story based on what people said back during the actual gunfight at OK Corral. So him basing that on that, it made Hour of the Gun one of the more accurate representations of what happened. Yes, like I said, there are moments that are thrown in there that are kind of fictionalized, like Robert Ryan, his Ike Clanton being kind of more, I think they took the Old Man Clanton character and kind of just merged him together with Ike, just so that they wouldn't have to worry about putting the character of Old Man Clanton in Hour of the Gun. But near the very end of the film, they have the very inaccurate thing of Wyatt being the one to catch up with Ike and gun him down in a gunfight, when it wasn't Wyatt at all in actual history. It was another police constable completely away from, and it happened in like Mexico, I believe. But barring that away, most of Hour of the Gun is pretty accurate. They do a pretty good job of doing some of the story beats and everything that were in that initial nonfiction book. Wyatt Earp, as written by Dan Gordon and Lawrence Kasdan, was originally conceived as a 6-hour miniseries. And when Kevin Costner decided he wanted to be part of it and playing in it and everything, they condensed it down. But it's still following a lot of those same beats from that initial miniseries aspect of it. And it shows. It really shows, unfortunately, in the film. although some of this stuff might be accurate, you know, they might have done a really good job, you know, doing this stuff accurately. It focuses too much on just Wyatt's life in full. And it's some of the stuff that you know, it's just in Hour of the Gun and Tombstone even, it's more focused on one aspect of the story, and you're able to focus on other characters on top of Wyatt. You don't have to just have Wyatt be the main character and everything, and he's the main focal point, and everybody else is secondary. And that's what hurts Wyatt Earp. It's trying to focus just on Wyatt Earp, and all these other characters are secondary. They are not given much as far as lines. They don't get really good lines. They're not even played by great actors that could have brought the role to life really well, with the exception of Bill Pullman and Tom Sizemore, like I said. But like I said, those characters are kind of wasted. So this one I am going to give to Hour of the Gun on story. I think it had a better story in it, and it had a better focus. Wyatt Earp was just far too long. It was overly long. Now let's move on to direction. Hour of the Gun was directed by John Sturges. Wyatt Earp was directed by Lawrence Kasdan. Now, John Sturges had directed, prior to Hour of the Gun, he had directed Gunfight at OK Corral in 1957, 10 years before Hour of the Gun. And that film was a highly fictionalized depiction of the gunfight at OK Corral. But as I said before in the story, this one focuses more on the actual historical aspects of the story. Like I said, they do have some points where they, you know, add a little bit of fictional stuff in there. But for the most part, it is a very accurate representation of the elements of the gunfight at OK Corral and the aftermath. Kind of like Tombstone in a way. I'm always comparing Hour of the Gun to Tombstone because to me those two films are two of the best films ever made about Wyatt Earp. Kasdan's direction on Wyatt Earp, by comparison to either Hour of the Gun or Tombstone, because of the overly long aspect of it, that, you know, Kevin Costner was just wanting this to be all about Wyatt and not about other aspects of the story. It really drags and makes it a slow film. I think this film would have worked a lot better had it been a 6-hour miniseries on television. It would have worked a lot better. But as an actual film, it is just too long. It has the great moment of, you know, Gene Hackman at the beginning. Like I said, those 30 minutes of him are just phenomenal. It was, the whole movie had been that good, Wyatt Earp would be one of the greatest Westerns ever. But as it is not. The focal point just being on Kevin Costner's Wyatt, it really makes all the other characters around him very lackluster, with the exception of Gene Hackman, who, you know, didn't really share a lot of screen time with Kevin Costner because he was playing more with a child actor for the most part in most of the scenes. And Gene Hackman just stole the show in those sequences, like I said. But in comparison, I think John Sturges directed a much better film. So I am going to give this one to Hour of the Gun as well, for a total score in this versus night of 3-1 in favor of Hour of the Gun. So, what do you guys think of these two films? Do you agree with my review? Do you disagree? Let me know if you think Wyatt Earp is better than Hour of the Gun, or if you agree with me in my assessment that Hour of the Gun is the better of these two Wyatt Earp films. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to click that bell icon so you can be notified about future videos just like this one. And while you're by the subscribe button, click that join button and become a Dark Knight fan. All right. Hope you've enjoyed this versus night, and I hope you will join me tomorrow for another horror movie night. Thanks for watching.